Want to know the secrets for tackling routes in any weather? Well, stay tuned because I'll be going over line choice, braking, bike setup and body position to make you a better routes manoeuvrer. Right, let's get into this spider web of routes. It's like a snake's wedding down here. But before I get into the tips, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Right, first thing to do is to assess the sort of trail conditions. Luckily, we're in the middle of summer and it's actually dry, first time in ages in the UK. So I'm dealing with actually really grippy routes, but obviously if these are wet, it's a completely different matter. Although I think the same kind of theories still stand. So I'm always trying to be careful about what I'm doing on routes, be it braking or turning. But hopefully today I'm not going to lose any grip, whereas in the wet, I'll be definitely being super careful and being really smooth about what I'm doing on the bike. Step one, we are talking angles and trying to work with what you've got. Coming into this route section here, actually, it's massive. There's 40 routes in front of you and it's quite quick, but also you are kind of mildly turning right all the way through, which is quite good because the first tree you get to, obviously the routes are going this way, but also it's almost going the same way as you would be, almost like a berm banked into this. So obviously you kind of, if you can hit them as level as you can with your bike perpendicular to the routes, the better. And as these routes are tipping sort of almost 45 degrees down to the right, if you can ride in at 45 degrees, then you're going to give yourself the best amount of grip possible. It's not going to be quite as much as that, but definitely I want to be lining myself up so I'm already slightly angled into these routes. If you are completely upright and the routes are going away from you, you know, there's a greater risk of you slipping that way and going the wrong way and also crashing. So angling with them is step one. But as soon as I've come out of this section, I'm then into a different situation where I'm now not cornering much at all and the routes are still going all over the place. Right, so I've dealt with the angles. In fact, I'm gonna have to deal with some more of that later on. But for now, I'm into relatively flat set of routes. And actually now, I'm dealing with this more like just any old rough part of trail. So it could be rocks, roots, doesn't really matter. But you can see there's lumps, there's bumps, and there's sort of compressions as well. So now I'm trying to smooth those bits out so I'm not compressing really hard in the bottom of these dips. So it's all a case of using your weighting and unweighting, your slight bunny hop technique, but also using the trail. So where you know that you're going to compress hard, after you come out of that, you'll like to go light as well. So I'm going to try and get light over these. You see, this is pretty nasty, kind of sort of sticking up sets of roots. I don't want to catch the edge of that because that is going to probably pull my tyre off or do some damage. So now it's all about heavy and light and trying to take out the big impacts. As you can see, some of these, that's sort of 6 inches high. If you slam into that, at best I'm gonna probably compress my tyre, hit a rim. At worst, that could pitch your weight forward and you don't want to be heading over the bars down this section. So like any rough section on the trail, these impacts are going to likely slow your bike down. So you need to be in a good body position to kind of drive the bike forward through the bumps. And starting off with slightly heels down. So when you then hit the bumps, your feet are actually driving the bike through them. If you're too flat with your feet, even on clips, you're kind of, when you now hit things, it's easy for them to start tipping forward and down. And that's when weight goes up and onto the bars. And you're in that situation where you've got too much weight on the bars and really then relying on your upper body to stop you from going over, but also for driving the bike forward. So actually it's much better to use your hips and more of your weight through your legs because your legs are way stronger, and just be slightly heels down, but also heads up, keeps the weight kind of, it feels like it's behind the bottom bracket. It probably actually isn't, but that's going to drive your bike through these routes. And then it's knowing when to be forceful with that. If you're coming into a section like this where you don't know it very well, I can see there's kind of big shadows, meaning that there's going to be some big impacts here. So that's when I'm going to be nice and firm and forceful and drive that weight through the pedals. Whereas if you can see their smaller routes or you know the section, that's when you can be a bit kind of more light on the bike and be a bit more relaxed and let the bike move around. If you did that here, the bike's going to move around too much and it's going to slow you down or send you over. How your bike is set up is definitely going to alter how hard or easy you find routes. It depends on the size of the routes and the style of bike you've got. So you see a lot of cross-country racers obviously riding short travel, full suspension bikes or hardtails, and they do run pretty soft tyre pressures nowadays to deal with this sort of the chitter-chatter of these routes and things. So lower tyre pressure, something like 20 or below PSI, and rim tyre inserts is going to get rid of those little small bumps. But on a bigger bike, so I'm on an all-bear Rise, which is, you know, a trail e-bike. It's got some weight behind it, which is good because it's going to help you with momentum. But also now I'm keeping my tyres fairly hard on this bike, so I'm running 28 PSI rear, 25 PSI up front, and I do have the Enduro thickness tyres, so nice and protective because obviously it's a slightly heavier bike, not very heavy at all, but I'm going to be putting some pressure through these tyres, so I don't want to be rimming out. So therefore I'm relying on my suspension for the small bump sensitivity. So same setup really, I'm running 30% sag on the rear, but you know, you can tune your rear suspension with air volume spacers to make sure you've still got that really nice start of the stroke, small bump sensitivity, but then it ramps up for those bigger hits, which is what I've done to this rear shock. But that is where something like a coil shock is really good for routes where they're so sensitive for small bumps. Even on trail bikes, they can be a really good upgrade if you're riding somewhere that's mega rooty and you want your bike to handle the best. A route section like this is going to let you know how loud or quiet your bike is, and for me this is where it's really nice to have a quiet bike so I can actually hear what the suspension is doing. This rear shock, I actually can hear it quite a lot, sort of sucking through as I'm hitting stuff. So things like chainstay protectors, this one's really good actually. You can see it's got loads of sort of cushion in there, so it's super quiet. But also this is where you see in slow motion that your clutch on your rear mech is doing a lot of work to stop that chain slapping around. So try and protect your bike, but also try and make sure it's quiet, I think is really nice to have when you're riding on routes. There's a horrible route here actually. You can see it runs like that across the trail, and it's dug out massively. You can see where people, you know, ride into it and their tyres have slid all the way along it. I see a chunk taken out of it as well, and it's just dug the dirt out. So in this case, I'll try and take the route out of the equation, and I've actually gapped over to the back of it. You have to be pretty precise here, so you're close to a tree, but that gets away from that horrible, nasty diagonal route. But it also opens up that left-hand corner, but it does take a pretty precise, quite a big hop to get over there. But sometimes, if you can just get rid of the route by hopping over it, that might be the best case. Now, you don't find many of these, but there's a route in this turn that can actually help you out and help you ride it quite quicker. So it's diagonal across the inside of the turn, but it goes to a berm. You can see the very end of it, there's a nice bank. So as you come around the corner, your front wheel is going to be around the outside of it, or just clipping the edge of it should be okay because there's plenty of grip after it. But just because of your turning circle, the back wheel is going to be further inside. And actually that works nicely because when your back wheel hits it, if it's leant over enough, it's actually going to slide round, turn the bike, hit that bit of the berm and grip. So it can actually kick the back wheel round and help you get around this corner a bit quicker. Definitely got to be careful when you're braking down routes. This is a steepish section, it's almost got steps to it, but you can see there's good bits of dirt in between, so I'm going to try and make sure I'm braking in those bits. But it's going to be really hard to judge because, you know, you're going to definitely have less grip as you go over each single one of these routes. Today, like I said, it is pretty grippy anyway, but in the wet it's a different matter, so you'd have to be smoother again and try and use these patches of dirt to slow you down. It's actually a good one here where you've got, although it's a little bit loose in the bottom, you've got like a platform and a bank to sort of brake against, because then you go into some big chunky steps that the roots have caused almost. So I'm going to want to scrub off a bit of speed here, let off the brakes down these steps, and have to get on pretty sharpish again because it's a tight loose turn at the bottom. Well, routes actually most of the time I think a really fun thing to ride, but can be frustrating sometimes. Definitely in the wet they can be really difficult, but I think nailing them feels good every time. It's one of my favourite things to do on natural trails, is sort of bomb through a really hard section of routes. I feel like you've done it and you've got through at a good speed. So yeah, jump into the comment section down below if there's anything you're struggling with on routes or on natural trails. I'll try and answer those comments, but thanks for watching, give us a thumbs up.